Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? Oh, what's that? There's a destination could not be started. Click here for details. What's that say? Streaming. There's an error in the Rumble. Oh well. Fuck it. I guess we're not on Rumble today. Hope everybody's well. It's 11:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and it's what 1:30 p.m. in New Zealand. Makes it about 9:30 p.m. yesterday in the United States, or Eastern Standard. So here we are. I'm Andrew. That's Neil, and this is Under the Rug. As always, if we say anything that offends you, you'll get over it. We share our opinions on here. We don't give. Well, you might not. I don't. That's your prerogative. We share our opinions. We research what we say. We believe what we say, but they're our opinions. You should go and research them too. And we don't offer financial advice of any sort, even though we're all making a shitload. But that's neither here nor there.
And quite often you'll see that Andrew upgrades my opinions on top of his opinions. And so, I don't care what his opinion is and my opinion on the opinion, but we generally get across anyway. So, yeah, don't get offended by lack of opinion. There's plenty of it here. Does that make sense? No, I don't think it does.
Not really. I don't think I can change this this thing for the Rumble.
Oh.
I just guess we're not on Rumble today. Sorry, guys. Sorry for those watching on Rumble. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's been one of those weeks. Okay, so we've been away for 3 weeks. I was in the sunny Rarotonga, and then I went home to the chilly New Zealand. Not as chilly as it is in Canada in winter, but it was cold, and we got flooded out on our last night, which was interesting. We left in the dark because the power went off in knee-deep water. So Sarah had to take her jeans off to get to the car. The car was almost underwater, so it was a rental. It was interesting. And then, of course, last week, Neil was traveling. So here we go. We're back this week.
Yeah. But I mean, it's actually really been pretty exciting with all the traveling and everything we've been doing, experiencing the world. We haven't done that much travel, more so you, I suppose, and traveling and experiencing these exotic locations. We haven't really been able to do much of that over the last 3 years because of the stupid restrictions and stuff. So, how did you actually find Raro when you were there, Andrew?
It's on a map.
Was it like normal?
It's on a map. That's how I found it. It was on the map. The plane went there. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was really, really good, actually. The people there really laid back, more laid back than anywhere I've ever been, I think, other than Fiji. But then there was a lot of Fijians there too, working in the service industry, which was lovely. Clean, really clean. They loved COVID because they all got paid by the government and no one could come into the country. So they did a lot of, they had to do, I think they had to do 12 hours a week to qualify for this payment from the government, 12 hours of community work. And then all the resorts did staycations. So everybody on the island could go and stay at the resort for half price to use all the facilities. So it kept the money spinning around the island. It was quite cool, quite a good idea. Yeah, I'm just putting a note here on Rumble for everyone.
I see Corolla's asking, did the EAS hit New Zealand or Australia yet? What do you actually mean by that, Corolla? We've certainly had run the tests through here again a couple of weeks ago. We had an EAS test come through on all our phones, all our devices. But unless you're talking something new that we're not aware of, bit more clarification there, Corolla. But yeah, there's been quite a bit happening in the last sort of 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's been plenty happening, hasn't there? We had a billionaire go missing at the bottom of the sea, or a couple of them. We had a dynasty member, or a member of a dynasty family, join the head of the company that had the billionaire go missing at the bottom of the sea, because there's nothing to question there. We've had, what else have we had?
Oh, you had that other billionaire guy, that one of the top guys in JP Morgan's died.
Oh, you have to tell us about that. Hey, Sam, how you doing? We've also had Wag the Dog. If you've ever seen that movie, Wag the Dog, you should go watch it, because that's exactly what happened just last week or the week before. And it's still happening. It's been happening for a while. I think we've kind of mentioned Wag the Dog before. But, of course, it's even funnier because it was the Wagner group in Russia, which was apparently pro West and was going to go and obliterate Putin. I think they played the CIA to the tune of $6 million. I think the funniest play I've ever seen is like, oh yeah, no, we're going to go and take Putin out. Hey, comrade, we have your money now.
And the CIA knows. The CIA knew about it.
Yeah. Oh no, we know nothing. You don't seem to know anything anytime. It's quite interesting because that, like, are they just exposing themselves? Is that what we're seeing here? D-class of all this corruption?
Yeah, well, you've got Biden in with the bloody. I'm not sure whether it was a press conference or what they were doing with the head of India, and busy telling how he's been selling all these secrets or whatever. Freaking mainstream watching it.
And now they're turning around though, saying that CNN released something saying that Trump was on a hot mic saying the same stuff. Oh, yeah, I sold secrets to. No, CNN, come on, you're better than that. Actually, no, they're not. They're fuckheads. But anyway, there's another story. We really came here this week to say good day to everyone because Neil and I have been so busy head down ass up with a new business that we've started or we've got involved with, and it's been keeping us both. It's been long days, hasn't it, bro?
Long days, but long exciting days. You know,
Yep.
I think the last 3 years, and we've probably been under the radar a little bit quiet, sort of just licking our wounds, so to speak, or exercising patience, looking for activity and growth moving forward. And I guess when you're sort of sitting there just watching, everything that goes on under the rug, and the fact that we can only really sit there and watch it from an armchair perspective, we have no control over it. And of course, we're kind of have fully diversified, our future assets into the future of what this is all about. So it's kind of like the fact you don't have any control, all we can do is just watch and have patience. And, but so to be completely distracted from that on a platform that excites the living daylights out of me, which has the ability to benefit everybody on what everybody's been looking for and waiting for, is pretty cool. And to be able to sort of talk to the top people and know from the bottom of our hearts that this is really what we've all been looking for and waiting for. And is actually, turns out, it's going to be one of the first off ramps for all these awesome diversified assets that we've been accumulating over the last 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely.
Which is
going to make it easier.
Watching, it's like, wow, bring it on.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny you say, sitting in the armchair and watching all these things unfold. It's incredibly frustrating, as our watchers, our viewers will know. It's incredibly frustrating being awake and aware to what's going on, and like it's like watching a horror movie, and you know what's going to happen, and the people run into the theater knowing, well, not knowing, but what's going on. You're screaming at them, stay the fuck away from the theater, you're going to get killed, but nothing happens, and they can't hear you, and that's what it's like. But I had a conversation with a good friend of ours this morning, who's now also making money. But I had a conversation with him this morning, and I said, "Have you been busy?" And he goes, "Yeah, man. The last couple of weeks have been crazy." He said, "It's feast or famine." He said, I've got money coming in every week, and it's like, what do I do with all this money? Because I was so long with no money coming in, and every little penny that came in, I had to make sure that I stretched it as far as I could. And I don't mean money from what we've just spoken about. He went back to the States and he came back home. He's back in Australia at the moment, but there's lots of people after him for his talent and his skills. So he's got plenty of money rolling in from that. And he goes, it's actually a really welcome distraction. He said, I'm not sitting here, because I said, where are we at, bro? Because he's my source of information. And he goes, I don't know. He said, I haven't been able to keep tabs on it. I've been too busy working. I was like, holy shit. And he goes, I know, but he said it's quite a good distraction. And it is, because it can be depressing sitting there watching that shit.
Yeah.
Especially when when not everyone's waking up. Not everyone can see it. When it's, I still struggle with no one seeing it. It's so fucking obvious now.
Yeah, well, those are the ones that were the goody two shoes kids at school.
That got good grades.
Got good grades. Didn't get in trouble.
Kiss the teacher's ass.
Yeah, well, yeah, not so much that, but just did their homework and kept their nose clean and did as they were told. Didn't want to get the cane, didn't want to get the strap, didn't want to get kept in, didn't want to miss their lunch break. All those sorts of things. You know, I
Uh,
think I just described everything I wasn't at school.
yeah, me too. Brought back memories.
Yeah,
um,
you put in some of your great school memories and what you didn't achieve in the comments. Come on, Sam, you
yeah,
must
yeah,
have
yeah,
some.
yeah, yeah. Put it, yeah, exactly in the comments and chuck in some of your school highlights. Actually, Sam was a good boy, although he come from a very good family. Because remember,
Yeah,
Sam went to university and it's done his time there. Time, it's done time.
yeah.
Um, so I want to show a funny clip or a bit of a clip, and this will sort of set us off for where we're going. So let's have a look at this. You see the picture right there?
So just explain that. Yeah. So
Now the one below. See that one? That one there is the Titanic on its maiden voyage. Well, no, it's not even on its maiden voyage. I tell a tittle. That's the Titanic after sea trials. Because, and look at the front of it. Look at what they're trying to point out. And that one there, the bottom one, is the Titanic on its maiden voyage at the bottom of the sea. Note any difference?
can you and here's something we should have talked about that before we started, but
Ah,
the Titanic had a sister ship, if you can remember.
they had two sister ships.
So can you remember the name? Was it what were the names of it? Was it
The Britannic and the Olympic.
so if you go and do a search on the Olympic and get a picture like we've got of the Titanic, or hang on, no, I think you've got a picture of the Olympic, but that's the one at the bottom of the sea.
That's right. We have a picture of the Olympic. It's at the bottom of the sea. So the story was with for those who are unaware. The story goes that the Olympic went to it was going down the Thames and it hit geez I'm remiss on the name of the ship. It was a HMS frigate. I used to know the name of it too, but it hit a frigate in the Thames. Now the Navy claimed and was found that this was true, that the White Star Line, Cunard Line, White Star Line, whoever had the Olympic, they were at fault. That was what was proven in court. So therefore, the insurance wouldn't pay out. So they had this broken ship, the Olympic, had some damage in the front. Funnily enough. So what they did is they saw an opportunity. This is how the story goes. They saw an opportunity and they switched it for the Titanic because the Titanic was, new and shiny and all that sort of shit. So they switched the nameplates over on them, and the Olympic was going to sail to New York because they could get the repairs done in New York, but it was going to be expensive. This is on the Olympic. It was going to be expensive to get it there without fare-paying passengers. So it was the Cunard Line was almost bankrupt at the time. So that's something to note. So they did the switch. This is how the story goes. They did the switch, and it was the Olympic that was on its way. Now they were, the story was that they were going to fix it in New York and sail it back, and then they'd do the switcheroonie again. But that wasn't what happened. So prior to the sailing of the Titanic, there was a meeting at Jekyll Island by all the top bankers in the world. Now on that there was three people that were dead set against it. I don't know if they were at the meeting at Jekyll Island because they were against the Federal Reserve, and that was John Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, and Guggenheim.
How do you remember that?
I can't remember his first name, Guggenheim. But they were the three. They were the three that opposed the Federal Reserve. They were on the maiden voyage of the Titanic. And so was JP Morgan had a ticket for the maiden voyage of the Titanic, and on the 11th hour got sick. But was seen in France with his floozy afterwards. So he wasn't that sick, but maybe he knew there was something going on. So there's a whole story. You can go and you can find this. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but it's definitely on Rumble. You can go and find the whole story about this. It talks about the Carpathia. That was it. The Carpathia that come to Benjamin Guggenheim. Thank you, Alan. Hey, good to see you, bro. Hope you're well. Benjamin Guggenheim. Thank you. I think it was the Carpathia that was. Yeah. He apparently got sick. That's what JP Morgan said. He was sick, so he couldn't go on the maiden voyage. Yeah. Take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was the Carpathia that was off station that was going to be called to the rescue, right? That was the whole thing. So they had it there so that they'd still be able to get some of the survivors. So this was all teed up. I mean, how do you get a highly what's the word I'm looking for? He was a very...
Well, hang on, Andrew. So hang on. I just
sent the truck up.
I found and it was basically a great explanation. I've just sent it through you on Telegram.
Okay, and we want to show. It's 6 minutes. Should we repeat it? Oh, yeah, I saw this the other day. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll come back to it.
Yeah, that gives them the in-depth explanation of what you're just talking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let me say let us watch that because it might tell the story rather than me trying to boom and fumble through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Shall I make that bigger? Yep. All
right. Submarine, which is really weird, is that it was actually funded by the Rothschild dynasty. And what's also really interesting is that...
so that's what I said, right? About a member of a banking dynasty family. Yep.
There is a new treaty that's getting implemented that makes it so that citizens of the Western countries like the United States, Canada, UK, can't go visit there without a permit. And that's actually already taken effect.
Why don't they want us to visit the Titanic wreck? I wonder.
And so the question is, why did this sub, which has all these different problems, an uncertified experimental design being run by a wireless controller and someone without submarine experience...
Pause. So I saw a picture of the, we wouldn't call it exploded sub, but it's like they show the remnants of it, and it's like it's in clear water, like perfectly clear to see. Now, if the Titanic was at any depth, it's dark. You won't even be able to make it out. So how the hell? It's like who brought into those pictures of this sub, of what they showed? It's a joke. But anyway,
that's how stupid they think people are.
Any significant degree. Why was this allowed and permitted to go down and visit this? Well, my belief is that they're going to use this as justification to prevent anyone from going down there and visiting that Titanic. Why? Because the narrative for so long has been that the iceberg blew through 1 inch of steel and cut through the hull of the Titanic, causing it to sink. Now, we all know that jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
But they didn't have jet fuel in the Titanic. Oh, wait, maybe they're talking about something else.
But what we should also kind of adopt is the fact that an iceberg can't cut through hardened steel. They made this Titanic unsinkable. And back then they knew what they were doing. And this hilarious narrative that lukewarm ice, right? Because that's essentially what it is at 32 degrees, could cut through hardened steel is absolutely ridiculous. And so I believe that if people go down there, what they're going to find is that there isn't an implosion in the hull due to an iceberg. What they're going to find is that there is a outward buckling of the hull because explosives were placed on the Titanic.
Now, just to play devil's advocate for a second, after 112 years, 111 years at the bottom of the ocean, the chances of you being able to see whether that was exploded or imploded would be totally irrelevant, I believe, in my mind, right? They're already talking that it's already fading away and it's crumpling, and well, it's not gonna be there in 10 years or 15 years anyway, is it? Although maybe at that depth it's well preserved, but I don't know that you'd see the difference between an implosion or explosion this day and age, like 111 years later. What do you think?
I don't know. I just like the fact that it's 111. It's 111. It's a good year for me.
Giddy up.
To blow it out.
Yeah, that's not a conspiracy theory either. There's a signed statement by a committee of the surviving passengers that was given to the press, which states that the Titanic carried 2,340 persons on board, consisting of 1,400 passengers, 940 officers and crew. No sign of panic was manifested until just before the vessel sank, when loud shouts of terror were heard and the sound of persons plunging overboard. There was reports of explosions from eyewitnesses. Quote, "Ice was all around us, crunching against the boats as we rowed away. We saw there was not enough boats for everyone, but there was plenty of time to save everyone if the Titanic had been sufficiently provided. The weather was beautifully calm, and except for the ice, it would have been like a lake in summer. We saw the Titanic struggling slowly forward as we rowed away. There was no sign of any panic until just before she sank. Then we heard what seemed like shouts of terror, and it appeared to us in the semi-darkness as if human shapes were plunging overboard. We heard a dull sound, which may have been the boilers exploding.
Yeah, exactly. And so the question is, well, why would they sink the Titanic? And the answer to that is that four rich families were on that Titanic that were all opposed to the Federal Reserve. So that's John Jacob Astor IV, Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Strass, and George Dunton Windine. And they all perished on this vessel. In fact, in the movie Titanic, there's a very short scene, about 3 seconds, where they have a bunch of people in the Titanic discussing and opposing the Federal Reserve, but it's just 3 seconds and it
I never saw that. I have to go back and watch Titanic now.
continues to move on. It's the belief of a lot of people who piece this together that those were the actual targets, because shortly after the Titanic sank, the Federal Reserve was instituted. And so
there's our whole show right there. We can end now because I said aluminum can and the creature at Jekyll Island.
Who is the beneficiaries of this? The stockholders of the Federal Reserve. Why would this thing be funded? Well, it's being funded by the Rothschild dynasty. Right? What they want to do is that they want to prevent people from visiting this Titanic. That's the reason why the media is pushing this. And what we're going to see after this disaster is over is we're going to see heat on the regulatory bodies that are responsible for issuing permits for people to go to the Titanic. And what they want to do is they want to cover this up. They don't want people to go down there. And what they're going to do in the meantime is give us limited disclosures. The Smithsonian came out recently and said in 2017 that a coal fire that was burning uncontrollably and undetected for 2 weeks prior may have contributed to this, ship's.
That was released in 2017. I've heard that for years. So we already knew that.
Sinking. And so.
Sorry, go.
That's all right. I just forwarded you the other one that then follows up on this. It's like we're all focused on the Titanic. Then there's another little clip here of a guy explaining that this is all just a distraction. I mean, it's all kind of parcel of the movie, but there's while we're watching this part of the movie, there's a shitload of other stuff going on. But I'll forward you that clip. We'll follow that onto that after this.
Yeah, cool. But guys, stand by because I'm going to share something else with you too. That ties everything together, the Titanic and the little sub.
It's my belief that they're slowly rolling it out in a limited disclosure to admit that there actually might have been other contributing factors to this, but I don't think they're actually going to come out and admit that the entire thing was a piece of sabotage in order to Trojan horse in the Federal Reserve System that we now have in place.
Yeah, as you alluded to, in 1910, some of America's most influential bankers gathered on Jekyll Island to plan the country's monetary policy and establish a central banking system, by the way, which Putin kicked out of Russia, which resulted in the draft legislation for the creation of the Federal Reserve Act. J.P. Morgan, the financier and banker who funded and built the Titanic, was booked on its maiden voyage in 1912, but canceled at the last minute. That's a little strange. Unlike the most wealthy and influential opponents to the creation of the Federal Reserve Act, American millionaires who did not owe their fortunes to banking, who remained on that ship and all perished. According to one theory, J.P. Morgan killed off any potential threats by ensuring rival millionaires, Jacob Astor, who you mentioned, Isidor Straus, and Benjamin Guggenheim, who all allegedly opposed the forming of a central bank, they all died on board the Titanic. None of this can be viewed as coincidental. And the discouragement to go and visit the
What do we think about coincidences here?
The Titanic is reminiscent of the discouragement, or actually the abolition and criminal act that it would be if you went and tried to explore, Antarctica.
Because what else is in Antarctica? There's another treaty there that you can't go and visit that either.
Right.
Well, hang on.
Exactly.
So, listen on that though, but that's not for every human being on the planet. It's only for basically us Western, and I think he explains that afterwards. It's only for Americans, Kiwis, Australians, Canadians.
You're talking about the Titanic.
That can still go there.
Titanic.
Oh, no, well, Antarctica, down that region.
So,
No, I'm pretty sure everyone's in on that treaty.
not everyone is under this treaty. This is the Western world. Russia can still visit it. China can still visit it, and it's in international waters. So, this international treaty doesn't apply to them, but it definitely does apply to you.
Yeah. So this part he's talking about specifically about the Titanic, not about the Antarctic.
Okay.
And it does apply to me. So it looks like this Mystery will be continued to be buried at sea.
Yes. Oh, shush. So I was going to say something. Can't remember what it was now. The Titan is missing. That's that other video you just sent me. So yeah, they didn't touch on the conspiracy or the theory about the ships being swapped, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that was the case, and in fact, there was I think there was some disclosure on the 23rd of May as a date that I've seen this year about that. They've found the serial number. I don't know how you do that either after 111 years, but anyway, there's other things that point to the fact that it was the Olympic and not the Titanic. And if you watch that video, if you ever see that video, there was steel nameplates on the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic, and on the Titanic, you can actually see the footage. They went down and had a look, and you can see it's lifting, and it's not a T, it's an O. Well, there's no fucking O in Titanic. So, they were hastily put on for that maiden voyage. So lots of unanswered questions, things swept under the rug as we like to look at. So you want to have a look at that.
Well, I guess, there's so much going on around the world at the moment. And, this whole saga around the Titanic and the Titan and all that. But if you look at this next clip, it's not only a short clip, but it's like, this is everything else that was going on around the world they say, look this way, and really we should be looking this way,
Absolutely. And part of it had to do with good old Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, well, if you play that next clip, it's just kind of like, here's what we missed. Well, here's what everybody else
All
missed.
week I've been fascinated with this story. Billionaire trapped in the bottom of the sea in search of the Titanic. It'll take
We knew where the Titanic was, just for full disclosure there.
6 hours to get there and only 8 hours of oxygen.
I don't get that. If it takes 6 hours, surely you can't ascend in less time than you took to descend. You'd get the bends.
It was a suicide mission.
Will they live? Will they die? Duped by the fucking media again. Monday, the Titan is missing. Tuesday, there's a banging sound. Wednesday, they're running out of air. Thursday, oh no, we found the wreckage. But the entire time, they knew it was BS. U.S. Navy knew the sub already blew up on Sunday. So
that's 4 days they kept that narrative up in the paper, in the media, in the news cycle, to try and keep people distracted. And, let's hope they live. When the Navy knew damn well on the Sunday night that they'd detected the implosion underwater.
Yeah.
But they distracted us, again, to hide the news cycle. What happened this week? Let's do a quick recap on what you missed. JP Morgan and Jeffrey Epstein emails were released. And now they have just mistakenly deleted 47 million emails.
That makes Hillary's 33,000 emails look like chicken feed.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is undergoing an impeachment vote in the House, or at least trying. The Pentagon fat-fingered $6 billion to Ukraine.
That one still cracks me up. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
They played them so well.
Hunter Biden gets a slap on the wrist while FBI whistleblowers are going missing. And John Durham had his congressional hearing this week regarding the Russia hoax. But I was so busy wondering about the billionaire who decided to go boating in a submersible soda can, I missed it all.
And a submersible soda can. Far out. Actually, I think I sent it to you, so I'm probably more likely to find it here than I am there. Because there's less to go through. But it's important. Carry on, don't mind me. I'm just trying to find this.
It just, that's a classic example of just distraction. There's so much going on out there now, and things are clearly sort of heating up around the planet. For me, and you've heard me say before, some of the stuff that's on the surface for me with the RV and with the real sort of financial reset that a lot of people here are waiting for, is what's going on with the Iraqi dinar. And so they've finally released their budget and it's been gazetted. So, everything's moving a step closer and a step closer and a step closer. And the budget, funnily enough, with all the changes and everything that are in the budget that they want to achieve, the current valuation of the Iraqi dinar just is not going to allow them to do it. That makes the budget look silly. So they have to have a revaluation in there, and at least 1-to-1, so that they can get everything in the budget done on time and at a more reasonable cost, and that has to happen with the RB. So much going on in that department as well. But like anything, even though it's mainstream media, there's still a lot of confusion and misinformation coming out, through the media and other bits.
I think that's on purpose, isn't it? It's by design.
Yeah, it's keeping us all guessing. And,
yeah, absolutely. Although, where are we? We're close to the end of the month. So what does that mean? End of the financial year?
Well, what we have is, I think ISO 222 comes into play on the 1st of July.
I thought we'd already had it come into play.
I thought everybody needed to be compliant by 1st of July. And so those that aren't, I guess we'll see. Yeah, let's see what next week brings.
So yeah, absolutely, bring it on. Saturday, let's go. Interestingly enough, we had reports of people in the US, right, who were told not to file their tax returns, to hold off on filing their tax returns. So I was speaking to someone here, and they'd been asked to file them early. I said, well, I hope you dutifully told them to get fucked. And they said, oh, I didn't say anything, but I have no intention of filing them early. I'm going to file them as late as I can. And that's probably a wise move because, well, we're close to the end of the month, and what's going to happen?
Well, if they want them, if there's the information coming out or messages to come out to file them early, does that mean they may be a little bit low on funds?
Of course they're low on funds. The RBA's broke. They already said that at the start of the year. They did an article in the Australian or one of the big papers here and said, oh, we're broke. And everyone laughed and went, oh, look, the RBA's broke. No, you dickheads, you don't understand. They are telling you they are insolvent. They have no money. And that's one of the reasons why, and I think we said this on the private Zoom that we did the other night, it's one of the reasons why they haven't called a recession here in Australia yet. Because if they did, they have to fix interest rates. Well, that's not going to curb inflation if they're not continuing to put interest rates up. I was talking to someone the other day, and they reckon that there's another 2 to come. Well, holy shit! I hope they're not too high, but I don't know where they get that magic figure of 2 from. But if they don't happen before everything falls over, then I guess it doesn't happen. Who knows? Does it fall over? Does it keep going? Somebody else I had a conversation with last week, they believe that there's going to be 2 parallel systems for a good 5 years. Sorry, two systems in parallel for a good 5 years. That's still a very real possibility too. It's not something that should be discounted, But the central banks are hell-bent on bringing their CBDCs in, the central bank digital currencies, and of course they're not good for us. The way that they want them, they're not good for us because they're programmable. They can dictate what we can and can't spend our hard-earned money on. So there's got to be an alternate, and plenty of places that are offering that.
I had a friend last week, close friend, was it last week, week before, and they were moving some funds out of Westpac, New Zealand, and big conversations because they were moving them into a crypto space. And you can imagine the conversation having with the fraud department in the Westpac, moving your funds. It's like, anyway, these people were pretty onto it, knowledgeable, and certainly sticking up for their value that they had in that bank. Anyway, the banking system released their funds and allowed them to carry where they wanted to go. But they also offered them to sell them their own CBDC funds, crypto assets. So Westpac already has their crypto platform there ready to go.
Yeah, of course. So does Central Bank. CBA, Combank of Australia. They all have. So of course they don't want them going off to other exchanges because they want to keep them in their ecosystem and charge you more for the price or for the privilege.
Yeah.
And banks aren't our friends. Gone of the days where you can rock in and have a good personal relationship with your bank manager and be able to get something across. That doesn't exist. Not anymore, and it probably hasn't for the last 30 or 40 years. You know, they're a shop for money. That's it.
Yeah. When you talk about running a parallel system, and maybe the system's already running parallel.
Well, yeah, we know the QFS has already launched. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But when we spoke about that, we talk about the current system we're in now. So this current system, it's not sustainable. We've known that since it started, because no fiat currency has ever survived. You know, you can see that in the History of Money series that Mike Maloney does. And thank you, Alan Nelson, for putting me onto that years ago. He talks about that in there. No fiat currency has ever survived. So we knew that from the start of this one that it was doomed. And they've usually got about a 50 or 60 year lifespan. Well, guess what? That's where we are right now. It's about to fall over. So yeah, we knew that system, but it's not survivable. So the current system still had to change regardless, but they still want it to be a system of control. And I believe right now that we have a choice, and it's a pivotal choice.
Yeah.
We have the choices. We can vote with our wallets, right? The way in which we earn money, spend money. So if you're not using cash at the moment, you should be. Use cash as much as you can, because the more you use it, I outright refuse to shop at places that don't accept cash. No, you're not good enough to take cash. Even if I want to pay with card, if they don't accept cash, I won't go in. But I try and pay cash wherever I go, because that's what's going to keep it in circulation. But even that, it's probably only got a 10-year lifespan left in it, even if they're doing their best to do away with it. So we want to know how to operate in that good side of the system, because as much as I say we're moving to a parallel system, and yes, and you say, well, we already are, we have been for longer than the QFS has been running as well, because there's a public system and there's a private system, and you can choose where in which you want to play.
Yeah, well, those of us that are awake and already know how to maneuver in the blockchain world, how to move a token from A to B. We're now starting to see areas around the world that are accepting those tokens as currency.
Absolutely.
Right? So the problems where problems are arising at the moment is the transition between the fiat and the digital space. And of course, the transition difficulties arise from moving it out of the banking system. There's the problems, and of course they know why and why they're making it.
Yep.
So probably on us as basically the pioneers into the digital space, the blockchain world, knowing how to transact, because most people, if there is such a thing as them flipping the switch, they're going to try and flip the switch on the CBDCs, which is the banking thing where everybody's got their money, and well, now we're going to this. So it's like our role could potentially be in helping those people out of those platforms and into the real digital space that Web3 and all those other those types of platforms that enable people the freedom and not the controlling mechanisms of the bank. Because once we're in here, so long as platforms, organizations recognize the digital as the real value, then we are truly free. And that's where that is. But that's, so something to be mindful moving forwards. You're all set. Well, you should all be set. Don't fear the CBDCs. We need to be prepared for those people that aren't prepared, so that we can give them a helping hand across to our world.
Sorry, I'm just chortling away to myself, because as you said, don't fear the CBDCs. I had a song come through my head by the Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper. Don't fear the CBDCs. Anyway, that's why I was laughing. Sorry. I always find something to chortle at. Hey, so guys, I said I'd share this with you as well, because this is kind of important. If you can't read that, because I know it's kind of small for you, it says the Titanic started the financial system. The Titanic sub will end it too. The Eve. So read into that what you like. But that's that was a nice little bookend, I thought. Because I think that really, what's happened, I mean, we're seeing a lot more disclosure in the media. I mean, they took Shane Warne, the coroner's come out and said that Shane Warne's death was directly attributable to to the shots. Well, that's pretty mainstream. A lot of people upset about that. They're talking about a lot more. that people can start to see the bullshit with the CIA. Obviously, women spending $6 billion on the Wagner group to go and take Putin out, and they're all laughing all the way to the women Russian bank with that $6 billion. So giddy up there. You know, the Biden corruption, the impeachment, the fact that it's all been covered over and we've been told to look at a certain thing when something else is going on in the background, that whole misdirection thing, it's a bit like magic. So, you know, there's definitely a lot going on for those that are willing to look and see the signs. So realize real lies.
Ooh,
I didn't come up with that. I just quoted it.
no, it's like pretty appropriate though.
It is 100%. And like Buddha said it, you know, there's three things that cannot remain hidden for long. That's the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Yeah. And, you know, what we're seeing, and if you think about the Titanic and, you know, 111 years or whatever it was to that point, but it was, what we are seeing is the undoing of all the evil that has been done. And yes, if you go back through all the evil and all the significant times in history that has changed and made our world the way it is today, which is a slavery world, all that is being methodically undone. And it's got to hit, there's Gary Harris.
How are you, mate?
All the way from fire.
Yep.
But it's all being done. It's been methodically unraveled and put back to how it's meant to be. Hopefully we're getting close to the end of that. Well, I guess maybe the creation of the Federal Reserve was the mechanism that enabled them to steal our wealth from us and enslave us even more. So if this Titanic and everything's going on there is an undoing of that somehow, some way, then wow, you know, then that means that we're in for some exciting weeks and months ahead, as the those sort of controlling mechanisms are potentially unlocked, where we get more freedom.
Yeah, but still potentially some more pain to come too.
Oh, definitely without it. Well, I mean, you know,
we're going to have that financial squeeze. It's people, you know, as much as there's a beautiful bright rainbow at the end of it, and I mean the good rainbow, like the one that means goodness. Read into that whatever you like. At the end of it, there's good stuff to come for everyone, but there's going to be people who lose their houses. And look, I'm not even confident that we'll keep ours, and not because we can't make the payments, because we can. But the banks are just as likely to turn around and go, right, you need to pay out all your loan right now. You've got 90 days in which to do so. So we've got to find, you know, the amount that we've got in our mortgage in 90 days. It just so happens that I'm probably doing something right now that I could. However, that's not the point. There's a lot of families that won't be able to do that, and they'll lose their property.
There are a lot of mortgage interest rates coming off their locked terms over the next couple of months, and so they come off.
Short?
Oh yeah, you know, and it didn't matter about those people there with the, you know, they lost their houses regardless of what sort of income that they were on.
That's right. Yep. Because the loans were all recalled, and that's what will happen again.
Here we are,
and I can't help but think that's by design as well.
Yeah, in New Zealand this weekend, so they managed to reduce the cost of fuel probably 6 to 8 months ago, about 20 cents. So those restrictions that they were able to ease are now coming back on again this weekend, along with several other insurances are going up. There's so much stuff that's about to jump through the roof over the next week or two. Yep. And so the big squeeze is on its way. And
it is. You know, obviously New Zealand's had a rough time this year, the same as we did last year, with weather anomalies. They're not really anomalies if you can look at the sky and see what's going on. But anyway, that aside, obviously I was just in Waihi, and I've never seen anything like it at Waihi Beach, and where it was in Waihi Beach and the flooding and things that they had, and in town as well. And I know earlier in the year Hawke's Bay got absolutely smashed, which took out all of the fruit for the country, which is interesting, I thought. But I actually said at that time, back then, I said to my sister in a family chat, and I said, mark my words, this will happen. This is all by design. this will happen, and they'll say they will not reinsure people. And what do you know? When I was home last week, they're talking about houses at the beach not being reinsured. Oh, we won't be able to reinsure that because it's too low lying at the beach. Waihi Beach has never ever had a history of it. Yet now one event, and all of a sudden, oh, we can't offer insurance. Bullshit. Come on, guys, wake up. I know you guys are awake. I'm just speaking my frustrations out loud.
My understanding is the insurance is as big a scam as the fiat system.
Of course it is. Of course it is, man. They don't want to. They're getting a premium every month, but they don't want to pay out on it. Of course it is a scam.
Yeah.
I know there was a family in Waihi. I won't say the names, but I grew up in Waihi, New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen. Small town in the Bay of Plenty. There was a family in Waihi that cottoned on to the insurance years and years and years ago. Yeah, I'm talking before I was born, years ago. And this is a story I've heard from my father. Because it was one of his friends. I'll get to the point. They decided long ago that they would self-insure. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the money that they would pay on premiums, they put away into a separate bank account, or a high yield bank account that they would get the return from. And at the end of the year, they wouldn't spend it on anything. They'd put that into the same account, and they'd continue to build and build and build. If there was something that they needed, like if they crashed their car or whatever, cool, the money was there and they'd pay it out, right? But 9 times out of 10, or 99 times out of 100, more likely, is that you're never going to touch that, and it's just going to continue to grow and accumulate. Well, that family left Waihi only after owning half of it for a while because they bought half of Tauranga instead. It might have been Auckland somewhere. I think they bought half of K Road. But anyway, the self-insurance model that they did works because if they needed it, it was there. But realistically, 99 times out of 100, when have you ever claimed on your insurance legitimately? And I say legitimately because I know when we were young, maybe we were like, if there's a claim, we'll throw something else in it. But realistically, when have you claimed on insurance and how many years have you had it?
I remember, and I can't remember the specifics of it, and I looked down at the track and being able, so there was an insurance policy, and I'm not sure if they were in the UK or the US. Probably both. It was a life insurance policy, but it was a policy with the insurance company that everybody that owned a policy was co-owner of the insurance company. So basically, it was your own bank account based on your insurance policy, and you could borrow against that. I can't remember the exact name of it. It was something life, but you can't get those policies.
Life Fidelity.
I don't think it was quite called that, but at the end of the day, you could use and borrow against your own policy. Those policies you cannot get anymore. It's only like car insurance. The life insurance is not like these policies are.
Like
when I look,
I think you can actually still get them in the States.
Yeah, but you got it. Yeah, you can't get them in any. You've got to be in the States. You've got to be a resident. You can't be outside the States. Those are some of the original insurance companies that were set up correctly and for the right purposes. And mostly probably all the rich and famous people were the ones that set up those policies for themselves.
Hey, of course.
But most other life insurance policies and that are out there, you can't use them in the same way. I'll try and find it, see what you can sort of clarify what I'm talking about. But,
I know what you're talking about. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just so much going on. There's so much happening over the next couple of weeks. It's been this is this the 4th week? So we've had sort of 3 weeks off. It's not as if we've had it off, but we've just been busy with other things. And I'm so glad that we've been doing something else, and the distraction has been phenomenal. And exciting, to help not only ourselves but all our, helping to help make people whole again. But if we just sort of stayed down under the rug and just focusing on all that for the last last month, we probably wouldn't have the same sort of energy that we're bringing to you today. It's like, oh, friggin', it's still not fucking happened. It's like win.
But and there's an important lesson in that, Neil, and it's sadly it's one that I got the hard way, right, and many others probably do the same. Is that I was, as much as I was very positive and upbeat about what's coming, I was waiting for it. Well, I got to mount my own rescue. What was that? I got to mount my own rescue, right? We've got to do that for ourselves. And then during that time, and a lot of my journaling, which I haven't done for a couple of weeks, I'll be honest, I haven't journaled for a couple of weeks, but it's not in that journal.
Holy gee, what would happen if you journaled now? Oh my God, you wouldn't stop for a day at least.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely plenty to dump. But what it got me down to was the whole second coming and all of that, and I've spoken. I think I spoke about that in our GSP last year, our goal setting party. Is that we need to mount our own rescue. We need to be that person. We need to be that Christ of ourselves, in and of ourselves, so that we can be that second coming. Whether there's a spiritual being coming back to save us or not is irrelevant. We need to mount our own rescue. We need to be that person.
Yeah.
Or people. And we need to be that people, that man, that woman.
The beauty is, though, is that we've found that platform that enables us to be there.
Yep.
And not only in being there and getting our heads around it, but it's like that platform that everybody, if you're fearing CBDCs right now because you haven't done your homework on it, then you need to talk to either Andrew or I, because I firmly believe that we have that solution for that.
I know we have.
And in more ways than one. But sort of moving forward. And how comfortable do you feel right now? Just
incredibly
in the situation where we are moving forwards, with like-minded people and in a much better financial position than we've ever been in.
Yeah.
Allowing us to share in their knowledge and the fruits of what they do, which is the offboarding, the off-ramping platform that everybody's going to need.
Yep. There's change coming. It's been coming for a while, but we're probably closer. Obviously every week, every day, we're going to be closer than we were the week before. But you've only got to look at what's going on everywhere. You're talking about the Iraqi dinar. You're talking about all the corruption that's absolutely coming to the surface that you can see. It's in such in plain sight now. If you don't see it, then you are literally blind. You're walking around with your eyes closed. Well, and I say that, walking around the eyes closed, maybe a little brainwashed and a little embarrassed, maybe a little shameful that you weren't able to see it before, and that's why you don't necessarily want to admit it. And that's okay. You'll come to terms with that yourself in the future at some point in time, or maybe you won't. But you know what? I think there's plenty of good stuff to be upbeat about and happy about. The biggest thing is go out and make it happen yourself. Don't sit around and wait for it. Go out and make it happen, because you're the only one that's responsible for where you are right now, and you're the only one that can change it anyway. So give a shit what anyone else thinks. And I should have said the don't. I was being lazy. Don't give a shit what anyone else thinks, because they usually don't think anyway. Henry Ford said it perfectly. Thinking is the hardest thing there is to do. That's usually why so few people partake in it. So,
there is some real hard yards coming for everybody, and even those ones that aren't awake, and we sort of struggle to awaken. But
even the ones that are awake, there's been some hard yards coming.
Well, for everybody, and a lot of us sort of struggle to talk to these people to help waken them up. But it's like when their financial hardship is smacking them in the face every day, every minute of the day, and they don't have a solution, then you guys can be that solution. That is when they'll listen, when you've got a solution for their financial issues, because that's ultimately what 98% of the people on this planet have been designed to focus on through the slavery mechanism, is their day-to-day needs. And you're now in a position to have that solution for them where they'll listen. You don't have to tell them that they did the wrong thing by doing all that, but you can just let them know that you've got the financial solution there to help make these hard times easier. And that's what excites me with what we've now all got our hands on, with the knowledge and the way to implement that, and to help everybody else move through. So yeah, for those in the tough times that are potentially about to come, and for us that are awake and prepared, this is coming into our time. You know, I knew I've certainly come here for something bigger than myself, and you know, if this is it, if this is the start of it, helping people get back up on their feet, man, I'm all in, boots and all. But mind you, I can't do it all by myself. We're going to need as many people hands on deck as possible.
Going to need an army, a Wagner army.
Yeah.
All right, it's close to the bottom of the hour, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you very much for spending the last almost hour with Neil and myself. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. We will be back next week, but Neil and I have been talking. We may be doing a slightly different, probably won't be a different format, but maybe a different show. Talking about upbeat stuff and yeah. But we'll see how it goes. We'll be back next week anyway. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then time, make yourself, or make it amazing. Make your day amazing. You're the only one that's got control over it. So,
High energy.
Yeah, exactly. You get to say how it goes. You get to say how it goes. You are in control. All right, guys. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Ka kite anō.
Love you all. See you next week. Make the most of the week. High energy all the way. Love you. See you.